Welcome to Coffee with Democrats, a sensible platform for progressive conversations. Coffee with Democrats is a grassroots movement dedicated to hearing from Democrats, candidates, legislators, and friends from all political backgrounds who want great conversations. Coffee with Democrats is committed to increase Democrat voter registration and Democrat voter turnout by making voting more exciting and meaningful. And now here's your host of Coffee with Democrats, Kevin Dawson.
Y'all made the mistake of putting me right next to all the treats, so if I stop talking, look up, I might be chewing on something. All right, am I good? All right. Hi, my name's Kody, Macaulay, and I'm running for CD4. We're at a crossroads here in Oklahoma because we're on the wrong track. And we, the voters of this district, we've got some choices to make, right? Do we want to keep the status quo, or do we want to change it up? Do we want to make a difference? Do we want to bring about real fundamental change? We're at a pivotal moment to decide who we are. Who are we? How will we make this a better country for everybody? When I took the oath of enlistment, I swore to protect the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Unfortunately, one of the biggest threats to our democracy right now is the extremism in our government. My dad was a cop, and my mom was a paralegal for a defense attorney. I grew up in a very conservative household. I haven't always been a Democrat. For a long time, I was a Republican. That's how I grew up. I would get glimpses of how the world really was as I sat at the dinner table and listened to the stories that my dad would tell about his night on duty and my mom working different cases. And that was my small little glimpse into how the world really worked. It shouldn't surprise anybody, except probably me, that I experienced a large culture shock when I joined the military. I learned really quickly that it didn't matter whether your battle buddy was black, white, gay, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. As long as they were there and they had your back, you had theirs. I learned more in those 8 weeks of basic training than I had in my previous 21 years. Throughout my military career, my viewpoints on the world changed. I saw how people were shaped by their environments and their experiences. I realized growing up that I didn't have to deal with anything like racism, sexism, or any other form of discrimination. I lived an extremely privileged life growing up. I traveled to several different countries and saw the best and worst of cultures, and it was a first-hand course in understanding the United States' role in the world. I've been in public service pretty much my whole life. So I started in the Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout. I made it to Eagle Scout. I worked at a Boy Scout camp one summer, helping young kids get their first class merit badges and stuff. Then I joined the military. I served in the Air Force for 13 years. I spent time as a police officer down in Texas for a little while. Funny thing about that. So this isn't in my speech, and I'm going to go off a little bit. Okay, so my dad served in the Air Force and then spent 30 years as a cop. My brother joined the Navy and ended up in prison. So I joined the Air Force and decided I better be a cop, okay? I better follow his footsteps so I don't end up in prison like my brother. My campaign manager's going to hate me for saying that. Perfect. Okay. When I left the military, I found myself asking, how can I continue to serve? How can I work towards that desire, fill that desire to make a real impact and help other people? And this is what I landed on. Door to door, call after call, every meeting I've been down to Pontotoc County, I've been to McClain, I've been to Grady, I've been, oh goodness, where else have I been? Carter. I've been all over the place, and I talk to people, and I find out what issues matter to you, and so I find it only fair that I tell you what issues matter to me as well, right? Women's bodily autonomy is not a political issue. It's a personal issue. It's between them, their doctor, their family, and whatever faith they have, if they have one. The government belongs nowhere in that discussion. It is sometimes an excruciating and unimaginable choice that women have to make. And as legislators, we don't belong in it. It's not our job. That's the doctor's job, right? So when I'm elected, I promise to do everything in my power to stand up for those rights and protect them. We made a mistake when we didn't codify Roe v. Wade. We're not going to make that mistake again, right? In the police world, I'm going off script again. In the police world, we do a lot of things based on case law, right? The stop and frisk, based on case law. Almost everything we do in the police world is based on case law. And we accept that as the law, even though it's not really written anywhere. It's just argued in a court, right? Roe v. Wade was the same thing. We got lazy. We accepted it as case law. And then it was overturned. So we're not going to make that mistake again. Tom Cole nominated Jim Jordan for the Speaker of the House. In that speech, he said that Jim Jordan would get after the real drivers of debt. That was Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. In a way, yes, we spend more on those programs than gets put in. That's fact. But we can make Social Security and Medicare solvent for another 75 plus years just by raising or getting rid of the tax cap. There is no reason that a man making $10 million is paying the same as somebody who makes $160,000, right? I talked to one former state legislator who has a business that's doing very well, and he says it's crazy. He's done paying into Social Security by March, and then he doesn't have to do it anymore. Why do we accept that? Why is that okay? Why are we protecting the rich instead of protecting those that are most vulnerable in our society? Our democracy is under attack. We all know January 6th happened. We have people in Congress that think it didn't happen, that they were just tourists, that it was a peaceful protest. It wasn't. We even have our own representative here in District 4 didn't certify the elections. So is this who we are? No. When did compromise, regardless of political affiliation, become the problem? We saw multiple Republican representatives that either were on the January 6th panel or spoke out about January 6th. They all got primaried. Why are we doing this? What happened to reaching across the aisle? They got punished for it. And I don't think that's right in any sense. We all know that sometimes the roads to change are bumpy. Progress comes step at a time. Who here is a sports fan? Likes football? All right, I like to say that progress comes in small chunk plays, right? If you throw a Hail Mary on every single play, are you going to score much? No, progress has to come gradually. And part of that is reaching across that aisle and coming to a compromise and working towards it. We also need to invest more in our transportation, right? Our trains are old. We don't have high-speed rail. If we could bring high-speed rail to connect South Texas up to Chicago, rebuild the Route 66 corridor, you could be here to Florida on vacation in like a couple hours. That's true. Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough.
We'll be out of office by then.
Oh, we'll get to Florida after it, becomes an island. We need to fix our roads and bridges. We need to do all this and bring in high-paying jobs and rebuild our rural areas. A high-speed railway to connect the cities would allow people to live outside the city and still be able to have a 30-minute commute to work in the city. And that economy will help rural Oklahoma, and we can start to build better again. Biden already started that, the Build Back Better plan. So, this election isn't about me, and it's not about Mary. It's about you guys. It's about the voters, and you have a choice, okay? When you cast your vote, vote for the person who will fight the hardest for our shared vision for Oklahoma, who will put people over party, and who will fight for you. Thank you. Oh.
Can y'all hear me? I'll use my teacher voice. I don't need that. My name's Mary Brannon. This is my 4th time to run against Tom Cole. How did you get into this? Well, I'll tell you. My brother, who I adored, this picture of him, he did 2 tours in Vietnam. He came home and he was dying. He died a slow, painful death, eaten alive by Agent Orange. On his deathbed, I promised him I would not let the VA go private and close all the VA hospitals, which is just what they're wanting to do. Anytime something goes private, the cost goes up and the price goes down. And I'm just not going to have that. You know, when my brother was so sick, that VA hospital helps the people who love him. We would go up there and we would sit, and we cannot have that VA go private. Right. It's like whenever they did privatize base housing on Tinker. Mm-hmm. They took it away from the government, and let me tell you, when I was a new bride, I lived in base housing. And when you got orders to go, people would come help you clean. They'd say, now make sure you take the knob off the oven because they might look under there for grease. Mm-hmm. Now, none of that's true. They have forever waiting list. They are kicking and disturbing asbestos tiles, so the kids are breathing that. They're painting over mold, and this company, Balfour Beatty, has contracts for 50 other bases. Yeah. You know, once you take that away from the person where you say, either you help us or we will campaign for your opponent next time, we've lost that. Because if you call, they'll say, well, that's not us, that was a vendor. That's not, the vendor said that, well, that wasn't us, that was a sub-vendor. So all this pointing, and yet those kids are still being sick, and that stuff is still, all that mold is still making them sick. So we cannot have that in the hospitals. Can you imagine if the hospitals go private? No one will be watching them. So that's the reason I got into this. And I promised my brother, I said, I will run until Cole is gone, because that's just what he wants to do. Another thing is, I'm really sad the way choice has gone. We've got people, I don't know if you know this, but James Garner, our native son, His mother died when he was 4 years old from a botched abortion. To get rid of a pregnancy is health care. Anybody see Nightline last night? The woman who had to go out of state, even though she didn't have a viable fetus, hadn't developed any of its organs. So she had to go out of state to get that taken care of. And you know, we're from Texas. She went to court. Her doctor said, yes, she needs an abortion. She has trilethomy. And she went there and they said yes. Well, the district attorney there, no, the attorney general there said, well, we don't care. She can just have it. Well, you know, where did you go to medical school? Yeah. So anyway, so she left the state and by the time it was born, it had died. Now, whenever these babies are born, Katie Cox, doctor, told court she needed her pregnancy to end because the baby had trisomy 18. The court agreed. Texas AG Ken Paxton, the decision, doctors could face first-degree felony and civil cases up to $100,000. What do trisomy 18 babies look like? Affected individuals may have heart defects and abnormalities of the organs that develop before birth. Other features of trisomy include a small, abnormally shaped head, a small jaw and mouth, and clenched fists with overlapping fingers. Everyone, I have a living will. If I'm on there and I don't have any brain waves and I'm just making money for the insurance companies, pull the plug. Don't have me suffer. Yes. Why would somebody want a child to suffer? Because sometimes they have to have feeding tubes. Do you know how painful a feeding tube is? I saw them on my father's last days install a feeding tube and take it out, and it made me cry. Yes. And he was at the end of his life. Who would do that to a baby? Evidently Republicans. Yeah. They don't care. Yeah. So what we have got to do is we have got to get, I'm really excited because we now have where you can register to vote online, because what's killing all of us is direct party voting. They color in that R at the top. They don't know it's not the party of Eisenhower and Lincoln. Now it's the party of greed and Trump. These people, and it's mostly the rural people. You know, my dad was Republican, my grandpa, I'm just going to always vote Republican. It's not the same party. I don't think they know that they are voting to have their Social Security cut. I'm just a Republican. So I'm excited about the direct party voting because we can fix it. If we can get enough, now that they can do it online, if we can get enough Democrats registered, we can change it. Because I promise you, those Republicans are not going to change it because they benefit. Like today, they voted in that you can't, the only way we get anything done is to get a state question. That's the only way we got medical marijuana. And now they're making it harder and harder to do that. Because, you know why? Because they know abortion's going to come up. And it's like they can't win unless they cheat between the gerrymandering. Let me show you this. This is Jim Jordan's district. That's gerrymandering. And when we finally got somebody up there, Kendra Horn, who just did a great job, she voted for affordable insulin. What did they do? They carved up her district so now a Democrat can never win again. Right. We've got to fix that. We got to. And I've got plans on ways to do that. First of all, it's all in the voting. We have got to get people out to vote. That's why I'm suggesting we go to colleges and high schools after they turn 18. Because I graduated high school in 1970, where abortion was still not legal, because it didn't become legal until 1973. I had an acquaintance, I wouldn't say a friend, but she had a back alley of unsanitary abortion and almost died. You can't ban abortions. You can only ban safe abortions. Yes. Right. And we've got to get on that, you know. I never thought in my lifetime that my daughter and granddaughters would have less rights than I have.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and these poor people, you know, I feel sorry for, since Roe v. Wade, there's been 65,000 rapes that have caused pregnancies, and the red states that don't allow abortion. 65,000. Now you tell me, should a 10-year-old be forced to have a rapist baby?
No.
Exactly. I'm a retired school counselor. In fact, I was retired from herself. And let me tell you, we need to help these people as much as we can, because they're counting on us. And you know, one of the reasons the abortion went through is because people realized we are saving people's lives. Saving people's lives. Can you imagine having a fetus in there that's dead, and they said, well, you're just going to have to keep it in there until it comes out naturally. Think how all the toxins. And then some of those nuts up in Washington, you know, ectopic, does everybody know what ectopic pregnancy is? That means it gets the egg and the fallopian tube. It will kill you. And one of those smart white guys in Washington said, well, just take it out of the tube and reimplant it in the womb. Well, it's just impossible, you know. So anyway, that's my big thing, is to get enough votes. And see, this is the size it is usually when it's aborted, when it's ended. Because once they realize, they do it in the first 8 weeks. And all the stuff that the Republicans say, well, they'll do it after they're born, that's just not true. That's just not true. But the thing is, we've got to have a plan. You know, I really want people to get out there and register the young voters. And Social Security, same thing. You know, they keep trying to take our earned benefit, calling it an entitlement. I paid in that 35 years with my employer also contributing. You're telling me that's an entitlement like food stamps and Section 8 housing? That's an earned benefit. And if you take it, you're stealing from me. You're stealing from me. So we've got to get that out there. And also, we've got to make sure that they are not taking away our veterans' rights. You know, when you see Tom Cole, he's over there, oh, I'm for the veterans. He voted against the PACT Act, that the veterans with cancer from burn pits. They just don't tell the truth. And he quit having town halls because he didn't like the questions. Now he has telephone town halls. If you get on the internet, if you'll go to my Facebook page, Brannon for Congress, I have him at his last in-person town hall, and they just skewered him. I think that's probably the reason his last one. But we have got to get out. We cannot just rest on our laurels. We've got to have a plan. We've got to get people registered to vote. We've got to get the protections of dogs again. We've got to take care of our veterans. We've got to take care of our teachers. You know, have you seen Ryan Walters on there? Oh my gosh, he's so embarrassing. And even worse, did you see when Mark Wayne Mullet, or as I call it, Jethro, tried to throw it down in the Senate? And I was just like, oh, how embarrassing. How embarrassing. And then you have, you know,
Bernie Sanders saved him.
yeah. And then you have people like Governor Stitt, who claims to be a Christian, but he turned down money to feed students in the summer. Free money. But he's using my tax money, my federal tax money, to give to 150,000 households for tuition, which is against the Constitution, separation of church and state. Anyway, those are my things. I got a bunch of stuff up here, if you'll see on there, that give stuff to these tax breaks to these businesses and how much they benefit. Mary, thank you.